Welcome everybody, my name is Gary Sims from Android Authority, and today we're going to be looking at a new phone from THL. Over the last few months THL has released quite an interesting set of phones, including the THL 5000 with its 5000 mAh battery, the THL 969, the company's first 4G phone, and now they've released a budget phone, the T6 Pro. When I say budget, I mean $117, 92 euros. Now that's really quite cheap. Now what do you get for $117? Well, let's find out. This dual SIM device comes with a 5-inch 1280 by 720 display, a 1.4 GHz octa-core processor from MediaTek, 1 GB of RAM and 8 GB of onboard storage. There's an 8 megapixel rear-facing camera and a 2 megapixel front-facing camera, and the battery is a 1900 mAh unit. It comes pre-installed with Android 4.4 KitKat, and you have full access to the Google Play Store. The T6 Pro is about the size you would expect for a device with a 5-inch display. It isn't the world's thinnest at 8.6mm, but neither is it that thick. The bezels down the sides of the display are good, but not ultra thin. Compared to say a Nexus 5, the T6 Pro is a few millimeters longer, 2mm wider, and about the same thickness. In other words, to hit this price point, the designers at THL have made the phone's dimensions distinctly middle of the road, which is perfectly acceptable. I found the T6 Pro easy to handle and has a good grip, and it actually feels quite light. On the front is the 720p HD display with 3 capacitive buttons on the bottom, menu, home and back. Towards the front top edge is the speaker grille and the front-facing camera. Looking around the sides, the power button is on the right and the volume rocker is on the left. The power button can be easily reached with your index finger when it is held in your left hand. On the top is the micro USB port and the headphone jack. On the bottom is a small thumbnail space to help prise off the back cover. It also acts as a gap in the outer shell for the microphone. For a little bit of decoration, the phone has 2 metal bands running down each side of the phone. On the back is a slightly protruding camera lens, the LED flash, the THL logo and the speaker grille. Since the camera protrudes from the back, then the phone is prone to rocking when placed on a flat surface. This is most noticeable when trying to type. The back cover is a matte plastic with a slight dimple effect. Overall the design is pleasing and the phone handles well. The 1280 by 720 pixel display on the T6 Pro is good considering the pricing of this phone. However, there are some negative aspects. The viewing angles are okay but not excellent, and overall the colour reproduction can only be classified as fair. The display can't be called vivid, and when placed side by side to a device with a better display, you can see that the whites are slightly grey and the primary colours lack punch. Also, the display supports just 2 simultaneous touch points and not the more standard 5. However, that really isn't a problem at all, except for the most advanced Fruit Ninja players. Having said all that, this is a budget device, and having a 293 ppi display is a big plus. Overall, the display adds to the user experience, and although there are better 5-inch displays out there, you won't find one on a phone in this price bracket. For a budget device, the choice of processor in the T6 Pro is excellent. The octa-core MediaTek MT6592M runs at 1.4 GHz and gives the phone more than sufficient processing power for most tasks. The processor packs 8 Cortex A7 cores, and while the A7 cores aren't as fast as the A9 and A15 cores, the A7 is certainly more energy efficient. The T6 Pro's AnTuTu scores are surprising for this price point. The device hasn't been designed to take one of the top spots, however it still manages a score of 26,696. These octa-core processors are very good when you're doing lots of multitasking. However, you'll likely see the lower performance of the Cortex A7 core on tasks that only have a single thread, for example when browsing the web. For Epic Citadel, the demo app for the Unreal 3D engine, the T6 Pro managed 52.9 frames per second on the high performance setting and 52.7 frames per second on the high quality setting. These are good results considering that the processor uses the Mali 450 GPU. The Mali 450 is a good choice for budget phones, however it is starting to show its age. THL decided to clock the processor in this device at 1.4 GHz rather than the customary 1.7 GHz that is often used with these octa-core MediaTek chips. That should help the battery life. My Epic Citadel test showed that the phone will handle about 3 hours of intensive 3D gaming. Simpler 2D games will likely run for much longer. YouTube will work for around 4 hours on a full charge, while watching an MP4 file stored locally will work for around 4.5 hours. I also did a simple 3G calling test, and the phone has a talk time of at least 20 hours. The 8 megapixel shooter on this phone is reasonable and certainly good enough for any snaps you want to take when you don't have a better camera with you. It works best outdoors, but since it has an f2.2 aperture, the indoor results are also okay. The back camera can be set to automatically extrapolate up to 13 megapixels, however it isn't the megapixel count or the aperture size that is the problem. The biggest problem is with the colours. For the most part the colours are bland. Having said that, these of course can be easily tweaked in any photo editor after the photos have been taken. For those of you into selfies, the front camera may be a little weak at only 2 megapixels, however it can also be set to extrapolate up to 8 megapixels. In terms of video, the rear camera can record at 1092 x 1088, while the front camera only records at 640 by 480. Overall the camera is good, but not exceptional. The camera app is fairly standard with features like HDR, face recognition and burst mode. If you don't like the built-in app, of course you can always install Google's default camera app from the Play Store. The T6 Pro comes with stock Android 4.4.2 with a few minor tweaks like an extra battery setting which enables CPU power saving mode. There is also a section in the settings to enable the multitasking window, a little always on top menu which gives you access to a few miniature apps including a notepad and a music player. The security section also features an apps permission setting which, when enabled, allows you to control which apps have permission to make calls, send MS messages, get your location and so on. Once enabled, the default permission is for each app to ask before using a restricted service. The built-in launcher is Launcher 3 from the Android open source project and not the Google Now launcher. You can install the Google Now launcher from the Play Store if you don't like the default one. This build of Launcher 3 also has some THL custom icons. One minor point is that all the icons have a square background. This means that if you install an app with a transparent background, then it gets placed on one of these coloured squares. The device comes with full Google Play support and all the normal Google apps are available. For those Google apps not pre-installed, a quick trip to the Play Store gets you everything you need. It is worth mentioning that the 8GB of flash is divided into 2GB of internal storage and 4GB of phone storage. The 2GB partition can limit the number of apps you can install. However, the storage is expandable, and once you insert a memory card, you can set the preferred install location to the SD card. The THL brand isn't that well known outside of China. Inside of China, it's actually quite popular. The T6 Pro is definitely a budget device. It has some weaknesses, including the battery life and the display. However, for $117, these things are probably forgivable. My name is Gary Sims from Android Authority. You can follow me on Google+. You can also subscribe to Android Authority using the links down here below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.